thank you everybody for coming. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. I guess for most of us it's the afternoon. I slept in really late, had some insomnia. So for me, it's kind of the morning. Um, I'm Robbie. I use he, him pronouns. I'm here in my living room with my plant and my cat and my flannel shirt, trying to stay warm. And you can turn on closed captioning if you go down to the bottom under more, if you need it. Also, Mike is here for tech. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. He'll be monitoring the chat. Is that right, Stacy?
That is absolutely right. Mike's here, being quiet.
I'm here.
There you go.
Hi, Mike. Inform Your Community offers events that combine information with fun. You can find us at informyourcommunity.org. Our social media links are there at the bottom of our site. Tell your friends to sign up for our mailing list on the top right of the site. And of course, you can donate using our donate link at the top right of the page. If you're watching the recording, please take a moment to like our video and subscribe to our channel. Today, we're talking about Jewish American, particularly Jewish American culture. It's an important topic for us to discuss now because Hanukkah, a Jewish holiday, begins at sundown tomorrow on Thursday, December 7th, and lasts until Friday, December 15th. There's 5.8 million people in the US who are Jewish. It's a great idea for us to learn more about Jewish culture and its contributions to America. This event is part of our Celebrate and Create program, where kids engage in unique craft projects inspired by inclusive monthly celebration themes. And joining us today is our facilitator, Mark Newhouse, an award-winning teacher and award-winning author who writes historical fiction for adults and fun mysteries for kids. He has just released his new Defenders of Monstrovia podcast, Mysteries, which are free on Amazon. We are honored to have you with us today. Hi, Mark.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So happy to have you again. And I like your background. It's scaring me a little bit.
That's actually my book about the Holocaust for adults called The Devil's Bookkeepers, which has been honored with many awards and is making people more aware of the Holocaust. So I'm very proud of that.
Wow. Well, thank you for that contribution, because you're doing a lot. If you're doing the fun mystery stuff for kids, and then you're doing the really serious stuff for the adults, you're covering a lot of ground. So we're blessed to have your knowledge with us today. And I just want to let everybody know, if you have any questions throughout, you can pipe up, unmute, you can write in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat as much as we possibly can. And we love to see your work in progress. So if you want to show us on your camera, we'd love to see it. And as you know, Stacy is with us. She is our master crafter. We missed you last time, Stacy, but happy to have you back. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about the craft today?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Robbie. And thank you, Mark, for being here. And thank you, Mike, for doing tech. So I am a white woman with salt and pepper hair, becoming a little bit more salt and pepper, but that's fine. And I'm wearing a turtleneck, a no-sleeve turtleneck that is whatever, like a kind of eggplant color. I have a plain black background, and I'm looking forward to telling you about why, and my pronouns are she and her, and I look forward to telling you about why I chose this craft. So I had gone to an exhibit at the Jewish Museum in Manhattan, uptown, a while ago, and while I was there, I saw all different kinds of menorahs. And they were just so beautiful. I even just had so beautiful, so interesting. I even just wanted to share. I never do this during an event, but I just have to share my screen. Look at all the neat menorahs that are there. I mean, granted, these are not typical at all by any means, but it's just so interesting and beautiful, all these different menorahs. I really just had to share. And so they really got me thinking. And I wanted to share that. I saw some that had dancers on them, some that were shaped like a dinosaur, really just such interesting and fascinating and beautiful menorahs that were there. And I thought it was so important to facilitate a craft that really helped us to kind of discuss menorahs and discuss Jewish culture in this way that we're going to do today. So today in particular, our craft is going to be making a Shamash candle. And we are it's one of the candles used on a menorah, but particularly it is the one that's used to light the other candles. So a menorah is essentially a candle holder that has 9 different candles on it. And so the menorah is that ninth candle that you use to light the other candles with. And so the Hannukah menorah has a kind of special story about it. But I wonder if, Mark, there's other, basically what I mean to say is that menorah is, you know, symbolic for Jewish culture, but there's a lot of symbols that are associated with Jewish culture. And Mark, can you tell us about some of those, including the menorah, if you want to share anything more about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. As in all religions, we have special symbols that mean an awful lot to us. You may have seen Jewish boys and men wearing caps on their heads. Those are called yarmulkes and kippahs. They remind us that God is always above us, that we are not the supreme beings, if you want to put it that way. You may have also seen the special Seder plate that we use for Passover and the Kiddush cups that are usually silver that we use for religious ceremonies on the Sabbath or on the holidays. I can't wait to see your Shamash, so let's get back to you.
Thank you very much. So I want to show you what we have in our kit. So today's kit, pretty simple kit, actually. Not something you're going to find in your home. Sometimes our kits are things you can find around your home pretty easily, but this one not so much. And if you didn't get our kit yet, don't worry, it's on the way. And if you don't have our kit, we're going to show you how to do this craft without our kit. So don't worry about that either. But essentially in our kit, what you're going to see is a piece of beeswax, which is kind of cool because it's got these, it's kind of embossed, if you will. And then we have what is going to be our wick for our candle. So we'll have that. And that's essentially all you need in our kit. So really simple kit for us today. If you don't have our kit, then you can use a variety of items that are just around your home. So don't hesitate. You'll take some time now to go get them. Specifically, if you have construction paper, that's great. If you have white paper, that's also really helpful. You can use that because you can always use markers to color it up, decorate it. If you have some kind of cardstock, that's fine too. And if you have foam or felt pieces, those are great. So what you want is whatever materials you have, foam, felt, paper, cardstock, you want one color for your candle. So in this case, my candle is, and if you can't see this screen, I suggest you kind of, especially if you're doing this on your phone, you can scroll over and you should see the screen that has a close-up of the craft. But if not, I'll also try to put it in the main camera as well. So you'll see here I have purple as my base of my candle. So you want one color for the base of your candle and one color for your flame, because since you're using paper probably, or even felt or foam, you don't want to ever actually light those because those are flammable. So be very careful. So, and even with the candle that we're making, we want to make sure you're always, if you do light that at all, you're going to light it in the, make sure you have that adult supervision with you. Okay, so families and parents, make sure you're there for that. So basically you want to color for your actual candle, and then you also want to color for your flame. So we're going to have you put a fake flame on there later. You can also have some markers. In my case, because I had cool highlighter colors in yellow and orange, which look great for a flame, I brought those out. But you can really use any markers if you want to decorate it. It's great. And you want to have scissors handy. You don't need those if you have our kit, and you want to have some kind of glue. I recommend stick glue, but some kind of a glue. You can use white glue as well if you're using the paper or felt or foam for this craft. So you can also use tape if you're using your home materials. So why don't you, you can go take a look and get those materials if you need those. And while our friends are gathering those materials, Mark, I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Jewish culture? I know it's rich. It's a rich, long history. So maybe just hit the highlights because there's so much to discuss there.
Well, yes, a very long history, but I'm happy to share it. The Jewish people have practiced our religion for a long time, but then a terrible thing happened back in about 586 BC, which is over 2,600 years ago. That is a long time ago. It's a very important date in history because an army known as the Babylonians destroyed the very first temple, which was built by a very famous king, King Solomon. The last wall of that temple, Stacy, still stands today in Jerusalem. And it's really the holiest place in the Jewish religion. You may have seen it in the news quite a bit too. Now, in America, most Jews pray in synagogues. And these are our houses of worship. Many have schools with them, and they also have people study there the Torah, which is the Bible, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Probably the most important thing is they serve as centers of service for the community to help others, which is a very important idea. The oldest synagogue in the United States, Stacy, and I bet you can't guess where it is Rhode Island. But there are many more.
I live in New York, and I would have easily assumed New York would have been the place where the oldest synagogue was. So thank you for sharing that. Tell us more.
Sure. Probably the most important thing that has happened in Jewish history recently, less than 100 years ago, is the Holocaust. It resulted in the murder of 6 million Jews and many more innocent people, many of the people that you show so much caring for, anyone who was considered different, handicapped people, and so on. It resulted, as I said, in this horrible situation because of prejudice and hate. On a personal level, I lost most of my family during this terrible time, which is why I really love being on this program, because I think that you teach people how to, children particularly, how to appreciate other cultures and people. What amazes me is that there are still about 50,000 people left who have witnessed the Holocaust and know what happened. Most of them will soon be gone, but it's something we always want to remember.
And I bet those that are around are in their 80s and 90s at this point.
Yeah, they are in their 90s. Again, it's one of the terrible things that happen in history. But I'd like to talk about some of the important things that Jews have contributed to United States history. Jews have been here, by the way, since 1654. That's 368 years of contributions to American history.
Wow.
And I'd like to tell you about some of those important contributions.
That's great. Well, I can't wait to learn about that. But first, I think we've got to get started with our craft. So hold that thought. So with the kit, you're gonna take your candle, and everybody has kind of a different color. So I've got my color here, and I've got my wick. With the kit, if you wanted to make a thin, very, very thin candle, you can actually, but I don't recommend doing this. It's just a preference if you want to. I would say make it the way we're going to make it for now. But if you wanted to make it thinner, you can cut this just straight up kind of neatly, and you could make a thinner candle. But you want to cut it long way so that it's still a very long piece. It's just half the size. But I think you're going to take your sheet, and now you're going to laugh what I'm going to ask you to do. You're going to laugh. I want you to hold it between your hands, because what we want is for it to be warm. And we've got body heat, so we're going to use that body heat to keep it warm. Okay, so for those of you out there who have our kit, you're going to take the kit. You're going to take the beeswax, and you hold it between your hands. You're actually going to be able to feel it if you kind of wiggle your hands a tiny bit. You'll be able to feel that it's getting a little warm and pliable. Okay, so you want to let that body heat soften that wax for a bit. We don't want to start wiggling our hands too much though, or start making our candle right now, because if we do, we're going to crack it, because the piece that I haven't used, it might be a little bit pliable. That's just because it's hot in my apartment and where I am. But if you were in a cold space right now, someplace with a lot of air conditioner or not a lot of heat, you'd probably just be able to crack this beeswax. It would just crack. So you don't want to fold any beeswax until you've got it the right warmth. Okay, so go ahead and hold it between your hands. If you don't have your kit, and you're going to keep doing that, and I will tell you when to stop doing that. Okay, so just keep holding it in between your hands. Okay, so do that. If you don't have our kit, what you're going to do is you're going to take your construction paper, whatever your base material is. Okay, and if you have white paper, you can just color it. You can color it later. You don't even have to color it now, but you're going to cut a triangle in it. So since I have a purple piece here, I'm going to use a purple piece of construction paper too. And you want it about 4 inches by 4 inches. Okay, so this is a little bit, this may be 6 inches by 4 inches. Okay, but you want to make it as square as you can, not as square as square, or like slightly triangular. Okay, is fine. So 4 by 5, 4 by 6, 4 by 4 if you want a little bit more stout. And while folks are cutting their rectangle, you don't have to actually use a ruler, but you can. You can even use your hand and make it about the size of your hand. You see how nicely that fits into my hand? So you can use your hand and just kind of draw around your hand on that cardboard to know where to cut, and then go ahead and start cutting. So while folks without the kit are cutting, folks with the kit, you're still holding your hands. And Mark, we're going to keep you busy too. And we're going to say, where were we? We're talking about important people. And I know there's somebody I want to hear about. I want to hear about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
I'm not surprised. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is one of my favorites too. She was an amazing woman. She was the first Jewish woman to serve on the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the United States. I believe she served from 1993 to 2020. And, you know, though, she wasn't the first Jewish American on the Supreme Court. That was actually Louis Brandeis. And he served much earlier, from 1916 to 1913. You know, Jews have made many, many contributions to American culture. How about in music? We have Irving Berlin, who was a very famous composer, songwriter, and musician. He was born in 1888. That's over 130 years ago. And here's the interesting thing. Even though he was Jewish, he wrote one of the most famous Christmas songs of all time. Do you know what it was? White Christmas.
Oh, so that is my absolute favorite. It's my favorite Christmas show. It's a wonderful song. I actually like that Christmas show so much because and so I keep it to the end. I watch a whole bunch of Christmas shows. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to start.
Too.
And I keep White Christmas to the end. Exactly. It's my favorite. And you know, there's another famous person who's Jewish that I want to talk about. And this might be, you know, kind of more well known to folks around today. And that is Amari Stoudemire, who is a famous basketball player, formerly a hometown person over here in New York with the Knicks, but now he's retired. But so he's also Jewish, which I think a lot of people would not have necessarily known about, even though he's very famous. And now he's retired, but we're not. And we need to get back to this craft though. So let's get to our step 2 for this craft. If you have our kit, hopefully your material is nice and pliable now. Okay. But before we start bending it, we're going to take the wick. Okay. So you're going to take the wick. This is not very pliable. It's pretty straight. And you're going to place it along the edge of your wax base. Okay, so the long right on the let me see if I can get it in the camera. Here we go. So if you've got the close-up camera, it's right on the edge, the long edge of the I'm putting it in the main camera now, the long edge of the wax. You're putting the long wick. Okay, so you're going to put it right there. And you're going to want to press it in a little bit, okay? So press it in. You can start feeling how malleable that wax is. I actually love working with wax. I always have. Even when I was a kid and I had braces and we used wax, I would always like make things out of it. So I love working with wax myself. So you're going to roll that. Okay, let me explain this to you. So you're going to put your fingers on the bottom corner where the wick and the wax itself are not are connected, but there's no wick hanging off of it. Okay, it should be kind of the bottom of what your candle will be. Okay, so you're going to take this part over here, okay, and you're going to put your hand there. You're going to point this away from yourself so that the dangling part of the wick, where it's hanging off of the wax, is facing kind of away from you. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to slowly start. First of all, you're going to push that wick into the wax, and you're going to kind of go up the wax. So you're slowly moving. So I'll put it in the main screen here. So you're going to push down and then slowly go up the candle, and you're pushing the wick into the wax. Okay, once you've done that, if you turn it over, it's not going to come out, right? Then you're going to start folding the wick onto that wax, and you're going to fold that over. You're folding the wax over the wick and keep going up. So I'll do it over here again. Fold it, the wax over the wick, and keep going up. So now the wick is covered. You can't even see it anymore, really, right? It's kind of underneath. And then you're just going to keep doing that. Okay, so you're going to roll that up, but work on that for now. Try to get that wick covered. Okay, that's your goal. Those of you without the kit, you're going to take a piece of paper, but you're also going to have, and I think I forgot to mention this. I cannot believe I forgot to mention this. You need a wick for your piece. So those of you who are doing this at home, you need a wick. So take a minute to go get that. Okay. But I'm going to tell you what to do with it, and then I'll tell you again, if you're running around your house looking for a possible wick, I'll tell you again what to do with it as well. So you can use something like a piece of yarn. Piece of yarn is fine. Piece of string is fine. I've got here a twisty tie. I actually think that is going to work the best, is this piece of twisty tie, because the twisty tie, like the wick, is not really flexible. So if you happen to have a twisty tie at home, I think that's your best bet. But otherwise, you can use a piece of yarn. That's fine too, a piece of string. And you're going to hold that, you're going to cut that to about whatever your paper is, you're going to make your wick a bit bigger. Okay? So you want your wick to be a bit bigger than your paper. So in this case, since my paper is this big, I'm putting my yarn in it. And I'm just going to cut it off a bit bigger. So let's say I'm going to cut it off right about there. Okay. So a bit bigger than the paper. So I'm going to take my scissor and cut. And then what I'm going to do is take my glue stick. Or I might take some white glue. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue that into, I'm having user failure today with my glues. So we're going to take that glue. Hold on one second. In my case, I'm going to pour it out. Here we go. I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to spread it on my paper. Okay, so you can just spread your glue on your paper, whether it's your stick glue you're spreading out or you have white glue, whatever it is, and you're going to put your wick right onto that. Okay, and then what I'm going to suggest that you do is fold your paper over so that it will hold your wick in. Okay, so what you've got is almost very similar, right, to what you have with your actual wax candle and your paper wax candle. So if you're doing it at home, you've got something that looks like this, and if you have our kit, you have something that looks like that. Okay, so same idea. So while our folks are doing that, and I'm going to show you again on camera, but I want to talk to Mark a little bit more. Is Mark, I have a quick question while our crafters are working on this step. Is that item in the doorway in front of some Jewish homes? Tell us more about that, because some of us don't know.
Great. That's a mezuzah, it's called. And really what it is, it's a little cylinder that's a placed on our doorway, and it shows that we're a Jewish household. Most people don't know that it holds our most important prayer inside. And that prayer says that God is one, which is one of the most important contributions of the Jewish religion.
God is one. That's great to know, and great to for folks here to know, so they can be more familiar with that. I think another word people don't know about is the word kosher. Kosher. And I think you kind of hear it, but you don't always know what it is. And that refers to kind of the laws that govern how food should be prepared and processed in Jewish culture. And then another thing people don't know a lot about is Yiddish. So, you know, Yiddish is a language for those of you who don't know, and it's a mix between Hebrew, German, and even other languages. And a lot of languages have mixes of other, you know, cultures in them. So it's not surprising. Yiddish is not necessarily unusual that way, but Yiddish particularly is a mix of Hebrew, German, and other languages. And my grandparents spoke Yiddish. And it was a sign that it was like a Jewish household. We knew, you know, it's a Jewish household if folks there are speaking Yiddish. And I always remember hearing him and my grandmother speak it to each other.
My parents also spoke Yiddish, but they eventually learned English when they came to this country. You know, Stacey, Yiddish was almost like a secret code in Europe because Jews were so often faced with enemies, they had to have a way of communicating, especially during the Holocaust. The actual ancient language of the Jews is called Hebrew, and that was the language that was used in ancient Israel and in the Torah, which are the 5 books of Moses, also known as the Old Testament or the Bible.
Thanks for that clarification. I know some people are, you know, maybe are confused what's Yiddish, what's Hebrew. So it's great to kind of have that clarification. Now, okay, we're on to step 3, everyone. So, and I'm just showing once again how to do this part. This is the part you did in step 2. I'm doing this with the wax candle. And this time you might have noticed I was not holding this wax candle. This is still step 2, by the way. I'm just revisiting it for those of you who might not have seen it. I was able to do it again because it's really hot in here. So I didn't have to hold it between my hands. But I wanted to show you folks one last time that way. And I showed folks some versions of the paper. I have one here with the kind of yarn or that I'm using here, and I have this with a with that twisty tie. So we have 2 versions of that here as well. So now, if you have our kit, and this is going to take a little while to do, and it requires patience. So those of you out there, I hope you have a little patience for this part. So in some ways, this is one of our simpler crafts. There's not a lot of, you know, crazy steps to it, but it requires patience. Okay, so what you're going to do, hopefully your wax is still pliable, flexible. If it's not, you just warm it up by putting it in your hands again. That's all you need to do to warm it up. Hold it in there for a minute would probably do the trick. You can count to 30, and it'd probably be nice and warm for you and pliable. And you're going to continue whatever you did to get that wax, to get the wick in there. You're going to go ahead and continue to do that. So you just want to keep rolling, and I'll try to get this close to the camera. You're going to keep, I've got a weird, I apologize, I've got a shadow. There we go. Okay, that's better. So you're going to keep rolling it now. So just like before, you put the wax over the wick to cover it up, you're going to just keep doing that same motion, and you go up all the way to the tip, okay? And then you go back down again, and then you're going to do that motion again and keep moving it on up, okay? I'll do it in the main camera. So here we go. Okay, so you have your wick in your wax, and you're just going to keep moving, pushing that wax over the wick. Okay, just keep like you were pushing that wax over the wick before, and you're going to keep doing that. Try to do it slow. Make sure that your candle is warm, the wax is warm, so that it bends. Okay, and you're going to keep doing that. Try to roll it as thinly, as tightly as you can, and try not to dent it or crease it as you roll. If you start feeling dense, then that's or like sharp edges, it's probably because it's not warm enough. So you may want to take a minute and warm it up again and just hold it in your hands. But as you feel it, you're going to see that your wax strip is actually turning into a candle right before your eyes, right? So, and if it unrolls for some reason, you can, if it you don't like the way it's coming, you can kind of unroll it a little bit. But you're going to keep doing that as you go. Now, if you don't have art kit and you're doing it with paper, well, hopefully your glue has dried. If you use stick glue, that dries even faster. I used white glue, but you see it's already dried. It's not coming off, right? So if you used a lot of white glue, it may still be sticky, but it's fine. And what you're going to do there is essentially the same thing. Is you're going to slowly roll your paper. And what I'm going to suggest is that also you might want to have your glue handy. If you don't have stick glue or if you don't have white glue, maybe tape will be a good thing for you to use, okay? But you want to have your glue handy so that at the end, it'll be a little bit tricky because you're going to have to glue it while holding it closed. Because you see, I can start rolling the paper, and unlike the wax, as I roll the paper, what happens is I let go and it's going to start unrolling, okay? And you want to get this as tight as you can. So you want to have your glue handy. So I would say if you have your glue stick, uncap it, roll it up so you have your glue handy there. If you have your other glue, make sure that's ready to just grab and go, okay? But you're going to take your paper and do the same thing we did with the wax, okay, is you're going to roll it up. If you get to a thickness that you want, so if you get to, once you get to a thickness that you like, you can actually just cut the extra paper if you don't want it too thick. Just cut the extra paper. That's the nice thing. You could do that with your wax as well. But I think this is a good kind of amount, okay? And if it does unroll, oh, no, now it's not the right, it's too loose. I wanted it tighter than that. You can keep going again with that, okay? And you want to make sure that it's entirely rolled to your desired thickness. And usually the Shamash candle is pretty thin. Now you've got it, okay? And you are going to want to immediately put some glue or something on that. Otherwise, you're going to have to hold it the whole time Mark and I are talking. So you want to go ahead and right off the bat, just put some glue. It's a bit easier when you have the stick glue because you can just do it like this. Okay, just put your stick glue right on it. But if you have other glue, you can put that on it just as easily. So you would put it on, right? Just similarly. And then you're going to roll it up all the way to the end. Okay, so and then you're going to try to press down on it, but don't press down so much that you are creasing the whole thing, because you don't want a square candle. I mean, maybe you do, you can do that. But if you want a round candle, you have to press down on it without squeezing too hard. And then you see it doesn't unroll. Okay. And if it rolls a little bit on one end, you can add some more glue to that. This is a time-consuming step. So take your time with it, have some patience.
You know what? It looks like fun to me, but I'll give them some time, and maybe what I'll do is tell them about some of the ideas that are important to Jewish people. Okay, number one, and I think everybody knows this one: Jews value education. School is probably one of the most important things my parents told me. Everyone knows the 10 Commandments, but teach your children is actually commandment number 11 to Jewish children and Jewish families. The other thing that's important is we place a high value on the 10 Commandments, which are very familiar to non-Jews as well. Two of these commandments are: one, God is one, and two, that you have to respect your parents. Jews believe in equal rights, justice, and helping others and are very involved in social action. We call this tikkun olam, which means repairing the world. Don't you love that?
I love that concept, Mark. That is an absolutely beautiful concept. Love that. More people should hold that as a value, hold that in their hearts and in their minds. And I appreciate you sharing with us. By the way, I love the idea of respecting parents too, by the way, just an FYI right there. And of course, education, you know, that's a good one too. So while folks are finishing up, I'm giving another example of the beeswax candle and just kind of rolling it up and taking your time with doing that. I want to make sure we do our last piece. So we have with our papers, Shamash candles, we have, they're sealed because we put that glue on the end. One of these is glued with glue stick, and one of these is glued with, actually it's clear glue in this case, but liquid glue. And you see both of them works just fine, right? It held pretty well. Not a lot of drying time needed. With our wax candles right now, our wax candles, we have a kind of seam there we need to get rid of, right? That's not a finished candle. So this is a little bit tricky for our crafters, okay? And I'll explain what's going to happen. So the folks who have our kits, we're going to show you how to seal off your candle. And then the folks who don't have our kits, while our folks are sealing their candles, or crafters are sealing their candles, we're going to show you how to make a pretend flame with your materials. Okay, so to seal off your candle, you're doing the same thing you did before, which is that last part. You're going to just press down. Okay, so that's the same thing you did before. I'm showing in the main camera now. You're going to press down to finish it off a little bit. But I want you to do one more thing, because right now you've got a pretty hefty seam there in that. It's a little unsightly. You can certainly leave it that way. It's kind of a matter of preference. So if you like the way it looks with the seam, that's totally fine. There is something to be said for that seam being there. It kind of matches. But if you don't like the seam, especially you kind of feel it, it kind of sticks out when you're touching it, what you're going to do, and I love working with wax, you are just going to press it in to the candle, almost like you're trying to wipe it off. Okay, so you're pressing really hard on that seam, pressing it into the candle. Make sure that the pressure is on your pointer finger, not on your thumb. Okay, because you don't want to make a flat candle, right? If you press too hard in both the front and the back, you're just going to make a flat candle. We don't want to do that. So push really hard with the front. Your thumb's pretty gentle on the candle, just holding it up, but you're pressing the candle seam into the candle really hard, okay? Like you're trying to wipe something off of it. So now after doing that, the seam, maybe it's still a little bit looks the same, but you can see it's much flatter. And when you feel it, it feels rounded. Okay. And I'll show you that on this one too in just a minute. But for those of you, so work on that. And if you have any questions, you can let us know, put them in the chat. For those of you who have the paper candles, who don't have our kit, this is going to be fun because you can do this any number of ways. And basically what you want to do is draw a flame. Okay, so what does a flame look like? It's kind of like a raindrop, I would say. That's what a flame looks like. It's kind of like a little raindrop. So you can take a pen or a pencil, or you can take your markers and draw a teardrop on a piece of paper. So that's what I have here. I'm not sure if we can really get a good view of that. There you go. Oh, that lighting is not working for me today. But you can see it in the main. I just did a kind of teardrop there, right? And it could be any shape. You can make it a more fun shape, a more elongated shape. So here's another version of that. There you go. There's another version of it. So you can make that kind of any shape you want that kind of looks like an oval with a point is how I would describe it. But it's what we might associate with a raindrop. You're then going to cut that out. Now, some of you might be able to do this all freehand from the start. That's fine too. You preferably try to make sure there's no edges on it. Okay, if you can do it freehand, this is what it looks like freehand, right? You kind of just make a circle and turn it into a oval, and then make a little point at the top of it. There you go. There you go. Okay, so that's a freehand one. but you can't really tell too much the difference between the freehand one and the, right? Doesn't matter. Whatever you do though, your next step is to make another one of them. Okay, so try to make it the same shape. So what I would do is put the one you have over that piece of paper again, and then go ahead and, here, I'll do it on this side for you. So to make the second one, you're going to go ahead and put it on top of that same color that you're working with. You could have it two-sided if you want to use a different color for the other side. And then you're going to cut out the other piece as well. Now, in my case, I have these on, I happen to have double-sided foam. So my two pieces are in double-sided, not double-sided foam, sticker foam. So my two pieces are in sticker foam, which comes in really handy for me because then they'll stick together really easy. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take the flame we just made, put our wick in between it, and glue those together so our candle has a flame like that, which I'll show you how to do in a second. So we have our two pieces. Now, for those of you who have our craft kit, you can actually make a pretend flame too. There's nothing to say that you can't have a pretend flame on your beautiful wax candle, okay? So you've now, hopefully, you've squished down that end a little bit. We told you about that. I'm just doing this on my second one. I'm squishing down that end so the seam is just fine. Okay. And then I am going to now, so I've got two Shamash candles that are with the wax. They're all done essentially. I've got these two candles, but I'm noticing that this wick's a little too tall. So I'm going to cut it off. Okay, it's good to start off longer because you can always cut, but it's hard to, you can't really add more wick if you did it too short. So I'm going to say I probably just want it about 1 inch. Okay, so I cut off whatever extra above about 1 inch. Okay, it's just about that much is probably fine. You can definitely do it shorter. So if you wanted to do it, you can even do it, half of what I have it. That's fine. You just need enough of the wick so that your you need enough of the wick so that your paper is sticking to it. So you're going to take what you have and you're going to put the wick on one side, put the other wick on the other side, and before you do that, actually, you have to glue it. So you're going to take one side, put the glue stick on top of it, put some glue on top of it, put your wick in there, and then take the other side, the other flame you have, and put it right on top. Okay? And there you have it. You have your own pretend flame on your candle. In my case, I had it as a double-sided foam. So all I'm going to do is peel that off. So same thing. And I'm just going to, instead, I peeled off my side and I'm going to stick it on. Okay. So you have your kind of double-sided candle. You can see the importance of doing it the same shape, because if not, you may have some, it looks slightly different on one side than the other side, but there you go. And there's nothing to say you can't also do that on your other candle. So I'll show it on your other candle as well. You stick one side to the wick, put your glue there to make sure it sticks, or in my case, I have the double-sided, not double-sided, but I have the sticky foam that I use for the flame, and there you go. So that's how it looks on the wax candle. Looks just as good. So while you folks are working on that, is there anything else you want to tell us, Mark?
I love your Shamash candles. I think they look great and ready to use in our upcoming Hanukkah celebration. Did you know Hanukkah is also called the Festival of Light? It actually celebrates a miracle when one of the many wars in which Israel was involved in ancient times, the Jews returned to their synagogue and found their enemy had destroyed it. And they were looking for oil so they could light their holy light, but they couldn't find any. And finally, they found just enough to last one day. And the miracle was that it lasted 8 full days till they could get more oil. The other thing I think that's very important to know is that Hanukkah is also called a festival of freedom. And the Shamash, which is what you built today, passes on the light of hope to every other candle and everyone in the world. See, we use the Shamash to light the other candles, and that's what I mean by passing on hope. I'd love to see some of the finished Shamash candles. I know you would, Stacy. So if they could hold them up to the camera, that would be, to their computers, that would be great. And maybe we could see some of the lights of hope that they made. And Stacy, thank you very much for letting me be part of this celebration for all of our children.
Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. I really appreciate it. Robbie, you want to finish us off today?
Yeah, thank you both. The Shamash looks really good. I love how it turned out. Look how cute it is.
I do love this craft, I have to admit.
And I've always been curious about how you would make a candle like that. And it was cool, very cool to see. Thank you, Stacy and Mark, and to our wonderful crafters. Celebrating Jewish culture is not a one and done topic. It requires an ongoing conversation. So we will send our event video and our infographic in a follow-up email for further reading and understanding. And please consider committing to a weekly act that helps you understand Jewish culture. Getting informed by coming to this event is a great way to start. You can attend an event at a Jewish Heritage Center, a local college, check out a Holocaust museum, a community center or synagogue, learn about Jewish Americans from history like Julius Axelrod, Sally Prisand, Stan Lee, who you may know from watching Marvel superhero movies. Our email will include a brief survey of what you thought of the event. Please take the time to respond. Your feedback is important to us. Please take a moment right now to take a quick poll, which will be different questions than what we send in the email. And let us know if you learned anything you didn't already know about Jewish culture, and if you'll share anything you heard today with someone else, and one thing you'll do differently as a result of what you learned today. We have an online Celebrate and Create event celebrating Lunar New Year, where we're going to learn about Chinese culture. That's going to be on January 27th at 1 p.m. Tickets and materials are free, as always. In our other programs, we have on Saturday, December 28th, we have a community building discussion where we talk about how to build community and be in community and ultimately be resilient as a community. And look and learn more about Inform Your Community events. We have a bunch of them. We have movie nights, a bunch of programs at informyourcommunity.org. And please consider donating. We're a nonprofit. Even a $5 donation helps to keep our events free and cover the cost of mailing our kits and craft supplies. And thank you so much for coming. And thanks again, Mark.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
And thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Robbie. Thanks, everybody.